Wednesday, December the 16th. It's my wife's birthday today, so happy birthday to Dodie. Lake level's right about 9:16. They've been generating a lot of water. It's come down about a foot or so since last week. But it looks like they must be dumping some water in from Beaver because it's quite a bit going out. And, you know, one day it'll go up 2 or 3 inches, next day it'll come down. But water temperatures still in the upper 50s. You know, it's still 57, 58 degrees. I hadn't been out the last couple days, but it should start to cool down because it's been getting, you know, pretty cold at night. But last week the weather was just absolutely gorgeous. But there's several different bites going on. You know, there's still a deep vertical bite, which we've talked quite a bit about the past couple weeks with the ice fishing jig and the spoon. And that seems to be on one day for me and off the next. You know, I can consistently find the fish, but some days I can't get them to bite, you know. But the most consistent area for me on that has been probably Baxter, Campbell Point area. One day I can catch them around Kimberling, then the next day I'll go to some of the same spots and I can see them but can't catch them. But the days I haven't been able to catch the deep fish, I've been able to catch some crankbait fish and some jerkbait fish. I think we're still a long ways over from having a good shallow crankbait bite because it really hasn't materialized yet. You know, normally this time of year we're down in the low 50s, and that's when that crankbait bite is good. A lot of times spinnerbait bite as well. But hopefully when that water temperature cools down, if it ever does, we'll start to see that bite get a little bit better and more consistent. And also there should be a boat dock bite going. You know, shallow boat docks, say 7 to 15 foot, and I've been catching a few, but I hadn't done it too much. I've been spending a lot of time out there deep and fishing a jerkbait some. But I'd probably take a, you know, I'm going to throw a little 3/8 ounce Snowden pig sticker jig, something in a crawdad color, with a twin tail Strike King baby rage craw. And most of the time these fish will be dead on the bottom. Do you want to just pitch it up into the stalls? Like say, start from the back of the dock on the shoreline side and work it out to about 12 to 18 foot. When you pitch into the dock, free spool it so the line will go as straight down as you can, then just crawl it back out of the stall. Now on the jerkbaits, and I haven't been catching them myself, but I've been talking to some friends that have been catching them on an A-rig real well, primarily up in the James Rivers where they seem to be doing the best on it. And they're catching a lot of keepers some days with some big fish. I've been catching a few on the jerkbait. I haven't been throwing the Alabama rig too much. My wrist is kind of out of whack, so it's Alabama rig's a little too hard on my wrist right now until I get it healed up. But on the jerkbait, I usually like to throw a Spro McStick or a Mega Bass. This is a Table Rock Shad, a little bit of purple in it. And I usually like to throw it on 10-pound line. Sometimes water gets real cold and the fish can get, fish get a lot more lethargic. I'll go down to 8-pound line, but I primarily fish it on 10-pound line. I want a 6/8 to a 7-foot rod, real light action rod. And I want a short handle, short enough so that I can twitch the bait without it hitting on my elbow. Just same type of rod like what you'd use for a spook. And I normally weight my baits, depending on the bait. I'll weight them a little bit different. This one's got a little bit of solder on the front hooks. It's got lead solder, which is getting kind of hard to find anymore. But another way I'll weight them down, I'll use these Storm suspender strips. You can use the suspended dots too, but it seems like sometimes you got to put quite a few dots on, where I'll put a full strip on, then if it's too much I can just cut a little bit off with my fingernail. And as far as the location, as far as where I'm going to put it on the bait, the different baits set a little different in the water. I like the baits to set when it's setting dead still as level as possible. So before I weight it, if it's nose heavy, I'll put the weight to the back. But if you'll find on most of the mixed sticks, the Spros, they tend to be a little tail heavy to begin with, so usually you got to weight the front of the bait. Now on the Mega Basses, they're kind of the same way. They seem to be a little tail heavy. You seem like you got to weight the front hook. And usually I want the bait at least neutral buoyancy, which means it'll suspend without rising at all. If anything, I want my baits just dropping just a little bit. And the fish I've caught on it here last week, I didn't have to let the bait set very long. Normally in the wintertime when that water gets down in the low 50s and from 50 on down into the 40s, sometimes you got to let the bait set 8 or 10 seconds between twitches, but the water's warm enough right now. I'm not letting the bait set, I'm just twitch, pause for about a sec, and working it back fairly aggressively back to the boat. But as the water cools down, you're going to have to slow the retrieve down. And, like I say, there's still been a little bit of a crankbait bite. I think it'll get better. I know I keep saying that, but the water temperature's been the same for the past 3 or 4 weeks. And the Alabama rig fish, I think, the reason it's probably working a little bit better up to James, the water in the main lake, like from the dam to Kimberling, up into Baxter and Campbell Point, after this last rain, seemed like it settled it out and it got it extremely clear. The James River has got a nice green color to it. Those fish are up there a little bit shallower on the bluff ends. And that's primarily where I would fish the jerkbait right now. I'm fishing on, main lake points. I'd key on bluff ends where channel swings come up against the point. You got a steep drop off. And I would also fish the same type channel swings into creeks, be on a secondary point, preferably with some submerged some submerged cedars on those points. And fish will just set in the tops of them trees. A lot of times as the day warms up, the fish will get up higher and just sun a little bit. So, the weather's been gorgeous. You get a chance, you need to get out and do some fishing. The most consistent in the numbers of fish has definitely been on a white spoon and ice fishing jig, and those fish are still in the same place. They're out in the center of them real deep cuts and most of the big creek arms. What you do is you just go back about half, 3/4 of the way, then just start idling around, zigzagging back and forth, and try to find the schools of fish and bait. Some days they'll be suspended up over the treetops. Other days they'll be close to the bottom, anywhere from 30 to 50 foot. So till next week, good luck, good fishing.